Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me tonight on another episode of Spanning the Need. I am Anthony Spano. Tonight, we turn the tide. We talk sports and the start of Ohio High School Athletic Association's basketball season. We have from Boardman Spartans boys basketball team, Coach Pat Birch, and from McDonald Blue Devils first-year head coach at McDonald, Jimmy Francesco. I will always butcher your last name, Jimmy.
Franceschelli, come on.
Come on, that's easy.
Huh?
It's Franceschelli. It's Franceschelli, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's funny how we are less than probably 3 weeks away from the start of the season. I mean, we're there already. How the summer and we fly, and we're already there to a different type of basketball season that we're going to have this year. And we'll get a little bit into kind of how the change will happen. But what I want to do now is I want to give a sense of the people that are watching a little bit about you and how you got to your position where you are. Let's start with first-year head coach from McDonald. Jimmy, tell us how you got to this position, where you were in the past, kind of how you got into basketball.
Yeah. I played at Struthers 1999 2003 for Coach Fieldline, a mentor of mine, and I still talk to him every day, and he's in the district with us at Struthers now, so I get a chance to see him pretty much daily here. And one of the main things is he's such a great resource for me to be able to talk to, and how long he's been around the game and working with Mount Union and stuff like that. And then right from there, I stayed on. As soon as I was graduated, I was right on coaching 7th and 8th grade at Struthers under then John Corey, who's also a Boardman guy. So it was something that I knew I wanted to do, and I just love being around the game, and more importantly, I love being around kids. So I was at Struthers for a little bit there, and then at age 23, I became a head coach at Toronto, Ohio, down by Steubenville. That was short-lived. It was a learning experience. It really was. At 23, 24, trying to be a head coach was made me realize that there was a lot more to being a head coach than showing up at practice and game night. Well, then I came back, got back into the area. I coached 1 year at Middle Ridge with Coach Cole. Went back to Struthers. It was with Joe Savko. Sav had stepped down, and I became the head coach at Struthers for 4 years. And as most people know, I went through some personal stuff at that time in my own life, and I've talked about it many times in many chats, many of these, and I had some gambling issues that were personal, affecting my family life and all that. So I took a step back, resigned from Struthers, and I really planned on taking a break at that point. And that's when my relationship with Jeff, we've always been really close, and he reached out to me, and he reached out to me when I was going through this stuff, even non-basketball. So it was more of, he's like, hey, if you want to get back into this, I got something for you. And at first I was like, I don't even know, but I got to be honest. It was two of the best years I've had. It really was. Working under him, and Jeff is such a good guy. People don't understand. They really don't. They think Jeff is that guy on Tuesday, Friday. That's not him. It's really not. He's just a competitor and wants to win. He's really meant so much to me and my family. And then the opportunity had come when Zach was done. We knew he was going to be done. And I wanted to get back into head coaching, it had to be the right position. And I firmly believe this is it. We got great kids. And the community, the tradition of McDonald is unbelievable. And I think that it's a great match with me and them being together. So that's where I'm at, and ready to get going here. We scrimmaged yesterday, and we got a few more coming up. And Tony, obviously, I appreciate you having me on. I really do. And being on with Pat's special too.
Yeah, and I know
Pat's been a lifelong.
And we know you guys have played basketball against each other a couple times. And Pat, talk a little bit about your past and where you are now. You kind of come from a different background, but close to what Jimmy's done.
Yeah, absolutely. Me and Jimmy's lives have been interconnected for a long time now, going back to probably like second, third grade, playing Little League against each other. Actually, I'm originally from Struthers. So those memories of Coach Villine are there for me as well. I was his manager for a couple years. In fourth and fifth grade, I kind of felt the passion for the game from Coach Villine as a young kid, and I think that was a big part of who I was as a kid. And then my family moved to Middletown when I was in sixth grade. But me and Jimmy always stayed in touch, and playing careers kind of intertwined together a little bit. At Springfield, I was fortunate to have very good head coaches. Jeff Brink is now at Hudson, very successful coach and extremely passionate for the game. And also Doug Phillips, who's the YSU's head coach, was my coach for football for 3 years as well. So, those guys were young and they were energetic. And I was very fortunate to have those guys as, really showing me what coaching was like as a young kid. I actually played football in college at BW, at Baldwin Wallace. But right when I was doing my student teaching, Coach Brink was hired at Hudson, which is about 30 minutes away from BW. He was looking for some coaches, and he called me up and said, "Hey, would you be interested in being my freshman coach?" And I was just finishing up college. I'm like, "Yeah, this would be great. If I could get into student teaching there." He gave me that opportunity as a young kid, and I knew right away. Honestly, game one, we had a comeback at Twinsburg. I'm coaching freshmen. We came back in the fourth quarter, and I felt like it was Game 7 of the NBA Finals. My adrenaline was pumping.
Oh, those coaches.
Loved it. I was hooked from there. It was like a drug, and I just knew this is what I wanted to do. And a couple years at Hudson, and then the opportunity came at Boardman. I applied. I got hired and kind of jumped full into coaching here. I was coaching football for a little bit. I coached basketball. I coached baseball for a little bit. And my fourth year at Boardman, the job opened up right before the season, actually. The prior head coach had to step down for personal reasons, work-related, and it was like late September, early October. I'm coaching football, varsity football. The job opens up. I'm like, what the heck? I knew I wanted to do it. I got the job. So for about 3 or 4 weeks there, I'm juggling coaching varsity football from like 3 to 7, taking a break, and then doing conditioning from like 7:30 to 9. But I had no kids, so I didn't care. It didn't matter at that point. Life was easy. And then here I am going into my 9th season. It's hard to believe it's going quick. Just like you said, those months go quick. These years are going quick, but it's been a really good experience for me.
Well, and I think this year is probably one of the most challenging, I would say, moving forward because we're in this pandemic.
Hands down, yeah.
And let me go to Pat real quick. Pat, just summarize what you guys have been doing, if anything, different over the summer into now.
Yeah, going back to the spring, once everything shut down, everything was shut down. We didn't really, think about hoops for a little bit. Our season had just ended, so we took that time like we normally would. And then somewhere in like late April, we just started thinking about, all right, well, what can we do? So we did some online workouts. We got the kids in the teams, and we had coaches posting workouts and videos, and they were self-responsible for uploading their videos and checking in on each other. Went pretty well. That was mostly during May. And then in June, we got the green light to start doing some open gyms again. And we pretty much did that throughout the summer. We had open gyms 2-3 days a week. We were trying not to burn them out. But at the same time, we wanted to get some work in. And we didn't have the normal summer leagues or shootouts, which it's so crucial for a coach to try to learn your team during those months. But everyone's dealing with it. Everyone's in the same boat where you didn't get that time on the floor, live action. We'll still learn who these guys are right now.
Jimmy, I know you kind of got the job mid, I would say maybe mid around summertime, give or take, between spring and summer, if I'm correct on that. What kind of have you done, first year head coach, to kind of get your team ready? Because like we said, that we're in a different situation than we were last year.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I got hired I think it was towards the end of May, middle of May, end of May. Right then, like Pat said, we went right into some Zoom meetings and workouts. And we did a couple, and it actually worked out good for us. We did a couple cool things where we brought some guys on to speak to our guys just about life and leadership and what you could be doing during these times. We had Luke Wallet on. Luke went through a battle himself, and he's doing great in Florida, running a rehab center. unbelievable stuff. And then right before the TBT tournament, we had Eric Devendorf come on and talk to the guys. So it was pretty cool for them to see from a guy that was pretty successful in college, obviously, and what he did after that. And I talked about work ethic and where he went. And then in June, same with Pat, we got in the gym and we got going. And we did in July a little bit too, because we were still allowed to keep going. And then kind of August there, we kind of let the guys go, and we had football, and then we came back, and here we are. I mean, it's been crazy, but we've been trying to live by the motto, Tony, of we just take every day, one day at a time, and we try to win that day. And if we make it to the next day, good, let's go.
Well, and I know that, and I hate to say this, is we know that a lot of schools are now bringing up cases of COVID and they're going to online. And that's sad to see, because you don't want any of your kids or any kids at all to get COVID. How do you handle that with trying to keep your kids safe and just kind of, hey, wash your hands, keep social distancing? So how do you kind of reiterate that to high school kids that, I mean, we may be a little bit older and a little bit wiser in regards to stuff like that, but these kids are 15, 16, 17, 18 years old that have never gone through stuff like this. I mean, none of us have really gone through a pandemic. Jimmy or Pat?
Go ahead, Jimmy.
You want me to go first, Pat? Or you?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim. Go ahead, Jimmy.
You know, the one thing that we try to tell our guys that, we take precautions at practice, obviously. We spray everything down. We wear masks. We take temperatures. We follow all those guidelines. But yesterday, at the end of the day, we talked about after the scrimmages, what they do on their own is really up to them if we're going to have a season. You know what I mean? They have to be able to do the right things when they're not with us. So we got to take care of themselves and make sure they're not, if they're out and about, doing the right things and following guidelines. But I mean, we have 7 seniors, so they know what's on the line, and they have to have a little bit of. They got to take some responsibility at this point if they want to have a season.
Yeah, kind of building on what Jimmy said. Similar, I think the message probably for most coaches is the same right now, where we could do everything in the world that, to follow the guidelines and try to keep these kids safe while we have them. But, we're with them 2 hours a day. And like Jimmy said, when they leave, especially, on weekends, like what are they doing? They got to limit their gatherings and limit who they're with. And it stinks because, they just want to be kids. They just want to enjoy themselves and be around their friends. And I think it's got to be incredibly hard for them. But at the end of the day, kind of to build on what Jimmy said, like if they don't get a season. And that stinks. It does, but that's the truth right now. And as adults, I think we're just trying to guide them through that and, give them advice and be there for them.
Hopefully they're not at that stage, like, how when we were like 15, we knew everything. And then we wised up, but I didn't know everything. I knew that.
They're all at that stage. That doesn't change. I'm teaching sophomores for 13 years now. Sophomores are sophomores. 16-year-olds are 16-year-olds. 17-year-olds, nothing changes. So they think they know what they're doing. And kids are going to be kids at the end of the day, which is, it's tough, but you just kind of keep that same message and keep it.
Well, and let's talk about this upcoming year. Jimmy, this is your first year, and Pat, you're in your ninth year. And Jimmy, and we'll go to you first. You've been at a program that was successful at Struthers. Do you change any of your kind of mentality or your approach differently that you would have from Struthers to McDonald?
The one thing I'll say is in this situation with me going to McDonald is being from Struthers and playing at Struthers and teaching at Struthers, there was always that you just have that sense of some people think they're owed stuff. It's just how it is everywhere when you're from there. My mentality at McDonald is the best players are going to play. That's the bottom line. It was at Struthers too, but I'm saying I go to McDonald, I get there at 3:15, practice over at 5:30. That's it. I come back home. So the one thing though is that will never change with me is how much I care about my players and the team. They know that, and that's just how they play. They're going to play like that they know we care. and my assistant coaches are great with that. We have a young, energetic staff. I mean, we are in it and ready to go every day.
And Pat, you're approaching your year, and we'll talk a little bit about your teams here shortly. Do you approach this differently because of the pandemic?
In terms of coaching?
Just in general, between coaching, off the court, on the court, because a lot of coaches will say, "Hey, wait a minute, guys, this is basketball season." Like you mentioned earlier, you're either going to have a season or you're not going to have a season.
Yeah, I mean, I think when, for those 2 hours you're on the court outside of the mask, and some of the social distancing that we're doing, like, I think it's an escape for everyone. That's your moment to really – it's probably the most normal that anyone can get at this point is practice. So I wouldn't say that has changed a lot. Obviously, some of the team stuff we're doing has changed. Like, just right now we're really not in the locker room, which is just bizarre. We spend usually so much time in there as a team together talking and going through stuff and team building, and it's just like that's been really an adjustment. So we got to figure out how to do some of that stuff, without the locker room, which is, like I said, it's just weird. That's our space. That's where your team comes together. So that's something that I think we're still learning how to adjust to. But in terms of practice, no, we're in it every day, and we're going. And that clock starts at 3:15 for us. It's just like any other year. We're challenging these guys every second of the day. So.
And let's get into some of your teams. Jimmy, we'll go with you first. The last 3 seasons, you've averaged about 18, 19 wins a year. Last year, you're 22-4, 14-10, and 9-4. Or I'm sorry, 19-4. And this past year, you lost Zach Rizal, who was averaging 30, 40 points, 1,000 points, 1,000 points a game. And you actually lost a couple other seniors that were very productive as well. Now you're bringing 7 seniors to a different level of basketball because of the pandemic, because you really couldn't do what you probably wanted to do. How do you change, or how do you look forward to moving to the future for success with your 7 seniors?
Yeah, first off, coaching Zach the last 2 years was an experience in itself. I mean, he is the most humble human being I've ever been around, and he's an unbelievable player and deserves every accolade that he gets. And anybody that questions that it's just crazy. I mean, the guy has worked for 12, 15, 16 years to put himself where he is. And to be at West Liberty people, if they don't know what West Liberty is, they should go check out a game. It's pretty exciting. As far as, we had three juniors coming back. So we knew we were going to have 3 seniors. Then we get 2 kids back from Middle Ridge that were McDonald kids. So they're seniors. And then we had 2 football players come out that hadn't played. So it brings us to 7. One of the things I talked about yesterday was we don't need one player to replace Zach. We need all 5 of them to collectively produce what he was able to do. And listen, we got some good players. I mean, people are going to be surprised. There's no doubt about it. Jake Portalease is one of the best in the area, in my opinion. He really is. Can really step out and shoot it for a big guy. Our other 2 seniors that we had that have played for us all the way through, Eli Street and Don Carquito, are both really good players. Don Carquito, 6'4", long, really long, could shoot it. Eli, he had 9 threes in 2 games last year. So we got guys, and then we bring in the 2 football players, the quarterback and a lineman, and the 2 transfers from Ridge, Miles Culp and Anthony Ragusea, both great players. I mean, good players. Miles is really the ball handler that we had Z's last year that really handled it for us, and Miles needs to take that role for us to be successful. We really believe as a team, and no one else really needs to believe it but us, I tell our guys, is that we're a 19-20 win team again. As long as we come together and do what we're supposed to do. This first week for us couldn't have went much better with the buy-in of our guys and just really getting into the level of play here.
And you guys actually went deep into the tournament last year. You went to district finals, or I was trying to look at the games, but I wasn't unable to bring the brackets. But you guys went 4 or 5 games into regionals. Yeah, you guys went far deep. And what kind of success does that bring for the following year? Is because you have high expectations, no matter if you have that.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about, we go by 2 mottos right now. We try to find a way, and the tradition continues. I mean, McDonald basketball has been, and even before Jeff, but what Jeff did in those years that he was there was, there was a stretch for 4 years where they didn't lose a regular season game. McDonald kids just know how to win. They really do. And they just play as hard as they can. And I try to tell our guys this whole week, one thing that cures a lot of mistakes is just playing hard and being relentless out there. And that's what they know, what the traditions are and what the program standards are. So they want to live up to those.
And I'm still thinking that when I keep thinking this every time I come to McDonald, that I'm going to bring a tape measure and see how long that court is, if it's actually longer or shorter than Ursuline and Mooney. I swear that court's about the same size.
I thought it was a little bit shorter, but I could be wrong there. I could be wrong.
It feels long, okay?
Jimmy, I really want you to get a tape measure out tomorrow and measure that floor.
Yeah, could you measure that floor for us, Jimmy, and report back? That would be great, because every time I run that court, I feel like it's a big court. But I actually enjoy big courts.
Well, Tony, you also have to remember that we're pressing for 32 straight minutes. So you're running up and down that long.
Sometimes I don't. We even need a break, okay?
I didn't want to go there, but I knew that.
Yeah, I'll go there. Well, let's go to Pat. And Pat's smiling because I had his game last year. As everyone knows, I'm a basketball official, and I've had both of these gentlemen. And actually, one question I always get asked: do I ever have a problem with a coach? I never have problems with a coach. They're still friends with me and always will be friends with me. So there's no one that's like, do you dislike someone off the court? No. And once I get off the court, I go have a nice Coke with them. Yeah. Now, speaking of running up and down the court, I had Pat's game, Boardman versus Cheney, which was a back and forth. I swear, I think I put 20,000 steps in on just that game. And let's talk about that, Pat. You lost D. Anderson, who averaged 22 points a game. You also lost Fried, who also was a double figures, and you got D. Anderson coming back this year. Talk about how do you replace that scores like that to kind of move forward in the program.
First, that Cheney game was an awesome game, by the way. That was game of the year for us. That was unbelievable. Atmosphere, back and forth, down to the final possessions. That was fun. Yeah, I think I lost about 10,000 calories that game, just nervousness. But to your question,
I think you lost your voice at the end of that game too.
Yeah, I for sure. I can tell me and Jimmy both right now, we're going through that first week of the season voice. I feel like I've been raspy for a few days now. But to your question, similar to what Jimmy said, you can't replace a kid like Derek with one player, and nor are we going to ask any one of our guys to step in and average 23 points a game that Derek did last year. And really last 2 years, Derek produced so much of our offense, between scoring and assisting, that it's going to have to be by committee. You mentioned Tommy. Tommy Friday had an unbelievable year last year and really propelled us to a different level. His ability to shoot the basketball was such a weapon. And again, I think we have guys that could shoot it, that are going to fill in, and we don't need, one guy to make 61 threes. We need 2 or 3 guys to make 61 threes, and we don't need one guy to score 23. I think we need a couple guys to step in and get to that number. But we got guys that can do it. We have talent. That's the thing I think that'll surprise a lot of people is they expect to drop off when we don't. We expect to be, every bit as good as we were last year. It's just going to be maybe look a little different.
Well, and I doubt either one of you want to shoot 61 threes in a game.
Jimmy might.
We do.
Well, Pat, let me follow up. Pat, and I'll get to you in a minute on that. Pat, the last 3 or 4 years, you had it down. You were 20-5 and 16-17. You were down in 2017-18 at 7-14. Then you came back in 19-4 and 20-22, and you actually lost to McKinley last year. What do you learn from a McKinley team like that, which every year and year out they're loaded? They are just every year they got a team. They're always in regionals. They're always in close to those finals. What do you look at when you kind of get to that level and look forward to for the following year?
In general, I say you're always learning. Like, we mentioned, we had a good year, and then we had a down year, and then 2 good ones. In that down year, we learned a lot. We learned what it's going to take to be successful consistently. And last year, that was a challenge of, could we meet expectations and get back and maybe take another step? Unfortunately, we didn't. You hang your hat on that you lose to the best team in that district in a really good game. 2 years in a row, we made a district semis and lost to the district champion in really good games, which we had leads in the second half, and we had within a possession in the fourth quarter. We against McKinley, we had them on the ropes. We had like a 3 or 4 point lead in that third quarter. A couple turnovers, deflection here. They got up, and then they banged like 5 threes in the fourth quarter and just kind of broke our back. But we know we're close. You look at a team like McKinley, and you could go toe-to-toe with them for 3.5 quarters. Like, you don't want to say a moral victory, but you're losing to one of the best teams in the state. And they're loaded again this year. They have everyone back. They replaced a couple guys. So they're going to be loaded again, and it'll be interesting to see how everything works out with the blended districts. I think that's where we're going in hoops this year in the Northeast district. So we may or may not see them. I don't know. But we know, and we preach it to our kids every day, is that when we're going against each other, you can't imagine you're going against each other right now. You got to imagine you're going against Kobe Johnson and Canton McKinley, who's a West Virginia recruit, that you got to bring it every single possession or else you don't have a chance. And even then, even if you do bring it, you still might not win, just because it's really good basketball over there. And I embraced it. I lived 2 years in the Federal League as a head coach. My first 2 years at Boardman, we were still in the Fed, and it was a baptism by fire, to say the least. We'd go over there, and there was no mercy, and they put it on us. And I knew one day, okay, if we're ever going to compete with these guys, this is how we have to play. We got to play relentlessly and then catch the talent when it's here and try to give ourselves a chance.
And we talk about that, and that was Boardman, Austintown, and a couple other teams from this area that kind of went there to the Federal League, which baptism by fire is a pretty interesting quote there, Pat. And I'll say this. Do you think, and it's hit or miss with basketball programs in the area. We're either going to have a really good year of games, or we're just going to have awkward games left and right. Where do you guys look at the Mahoning Valley stacked up against the state of Ohio when it comes to basketball programs? Jimmy, we'll go to you.
That's a good question, Tony. And it's hard because, we don't see a lot of the other teams in the state throughout the year. We know who the teams are. I mean, in our Division 4, it's Richmond Heights. I mean, that's who it is in our area, Northeast Ohio. So how do we stack up? I mean, I think last year the MVAC was as good as it's been in a long time. I mean, we had McDonald, Waterloo, Springfield, and even Lowville had a good year, and Sebring was undefeated for a while and ranked in the state. So this year in Division 4, in our league, hopefully it's us, Lowville, and Springfield again, and possibly Waterloo. But only time will tell with that. But I think Boardman's obviously going to be good in the area. Cheney's going to be good again. I think Struthers is going to be good. I really do. And I'm sure Warren Harding's good and teams like that. I just don't see much of those guys. Thankfully, I get to see Pat next week.
Pat, what about you?
I think Jimmy made a lot of really good points there. There's very successful teams and programs. You look at what McDonald's done over the last decade. You look at Poland and what Grisdale's done there. It's been amazing. I mean, guy has won 17 games for like 20 straight years, something crazy. It's state finals trips. And Struthers is going to be really good again. Warren Harding, I think is on the verge of coming back, to where they were just a few years ago. So there's talent, like you said, Cheney. I know Cheney's going to be really good. We play them game too, so we're gonna find out really quick. I think at the top, it's good basketball. It's really good basketball. I don't know if you compare the Mahoning Valley to say like Stark County or Cleveland area, if there is as many really good teams. Obviously just because we have maybe less schools, than you are in some areas. In Division I for us, there's three teams around here. It's us, Fitch, and Harding. So there's just not the sheer quantity for our size schools as there. It's just, and that's something that maybe impacts the game. I don't know, but there's also really good basketball. I know, we scrimmage McDonald next Saturday. I know that's going to be a battle. I don't care if they're Division 3 or 4 or whatever. That's going to be, Jimmy's got to have those guys ready, and they're going to be fighting hard. And I know we're going to get better that day. So I think it's just at the top. It's pretty good, and I don't know if it's as consistent as other areas, maybe top to bottom. Like in the Federal League last year, I think Uniontown Lake ended up last in the Federal League. We played them, and it was a really good game for about 2.5 quarters. We were finally able to separate, and I'm like, that's the worst team in the Federal League, quote unquote. They're still really, really good. It's just maybe a little different level at the top to bottom over there. And again, no knock to anyone around here. There's really good programs, like I said.
Well, and I think that goes for, we talk about basketball teams from the D1 level to D4 and look at all the programs in general. And it'll become an instance where that you're going to have programs just playing. Everyone's going to play everyone. The Boardmans are going to play the McDonalds. The McDonalds are going to play the teams that are in D2, D3 just to play. And you hate, and just as a quick question, are you guys scheduled to play each other this year?
No, just a scrimmage, not regular season.
Just scrimmage next Saturday.
Well, would you guys ever play each other in a regular game?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Well, and maybe one thing about
maybe in the Hope Foundation one day.
Well, that Hope Classic is kind of is now done for a couple of years.
I heard you wanted to fly both our teams down to Florida for a showcase, is what I heard.
Florida?
Yeah.
I'll be happy to do that. Who's paying?
I heard you were. That's the rumor. I was ready to sign up for that. The Tony's Invitational in Orlando.
Yeah,
we'll have the Invitational. You go down there, I'll meet you down there.
Sounds good.
Well, and let's talk about and let me ask, Jimmy, I'll go to you first. What are you looking for moving forward during this season? What are your expectations kind of during the season and kind of where you want to be?
Yeah, I mean, our goal is ultimately, I told a lot of people put a win total as their goal and winning the league as a goal. And those are all goals of ours. But ultimately, our goal is to win the district championship. So whatever we have to do to prepare ourselves to be ready come March, that's what we need to do. We want to be playing our best basketball at the end of the year. And I don't know who made our schedule, but they did a pretty good job of scheduling. We play at Struthers the last game of the year where we happen to play our tournament. So we're used to play. Who knows what's going to happen now with everything. But our goal is to win every game, Tony. I mean, we realistically think we should be in every game. Everybody has some bad nights in that, so you never know. But to compete and be at the highest level every night, our goal is 1-0 on game night. That's what we want to do every night, get out there and win.
Pat, what about you?
Our expectations are still high. We came into last year with very high expectations and expected to build on a really good year from 2 years ago, and we expect to do the same. We graduated a ton of kids, and I love that class. They're special to me, but they're gone. That's high school sports. You find the next group, and the kids coming up. We got about 10 or 11 in the mix right now, and they're talented. We have some good size. Ethan Anderson is back, who's been a 2-year starter for us, and he's going to flourish this year as the focal point. I really believe that, and he's going to be a kid that was a really good player for us, but he served the role, and now he's our guy, and that's no secret. I mean, anyone we play is going to know that. So will it take some time to get some of you guys adjusted? Yeah, for sure. We're going to have basically all new guards. But again, they're talented, and I think our biggest goal with them is just to make them understand what it takes to play at the varsity level. They've been good freshmen and good JV players. Now they got to be good varsity players, and that's a whole different game, than being a JV player. And the expectation is so much higher, and that's every day in practice. When you're a varsity player, your expectation is it's greater. You're a sophomore learning the game still a little bit, but when you're a junior or senior and you think you're playing varsity, it's a different level. So that's what we're preaching with these guys. And like Jimmy said, it's hard to put a win total on it. I don't know. Last year, if you would have asked me at this time, would we have won 19 or 20 games again? I don't know. Our schedule was harder last year. So I said before last season, hey, we might lose a couple more games, but be a better team. And we didn't. So, you just don't know. This year, are we going to win 20 games again in the regular season? I don't know. Our schedule, again, we loaded it up and, out of conference, and we opened up with Cleveland Benedictine and Cheney, who are – I don't know much about Benedictine right now, but I'm going to guarantee they're not bad.
I've heard about them. I've heard some things. And you talk about –
Well, you got a scouting report for me? Because I could use one.
They're good. Let's just put it that way. That's about all. We talk about records, but I think, and I've talked to a lot of head coaches across the valley, and you guys are the same, that you don't put it on the record. You put it on how to improve throughout the season. Was that a pretty correct statement?
Yeah, it's the process. It's a matter of, do you show up every day and get better, and are you giving your best effort? Because that's all any coach wants. If you're doing that and your team does that, you could go 500 and you're going to say, okay, we were successful. We fought every game. We got the most out of ourselves,
Jimmy?
Yeah. And, one of the, and Pat touched on it earlier with, the 2 hours of practice are what guys are looking forward to right now. We live by a rule of 22-2, we call it. 22 hours of the day, they're kids, they're high school kids. For 2 hours, we just want you to be as focused as possible and come ready and do what you're supposed to do for us. Whether that is between us practicing, watching film, doing all the essentials to be ready for the next game.
Well, and we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules and talking basketball with us and everything like that. And now I'm going to ask some questions that I ask everyone that's on my show. So these may be more tough questions than what we were just talking about. Are you guys up for it?
No, actually, I got to get going here. I got to think.
Yeah, I bet you do. So let's talk.
Tony, hold on. Tony, I seen somebody writing in. I seen somebody writing in on the Facebook. Was that Kathy Sircone?
Cat Miller.
That was Mayor Miller. And some others.
And Ashley Tedrow.
Yeah.
Great Struthers people. Struthers people.
So,
and one thing about me and Pat. Yep.
Go ahead. What were you going to say, Jimmy?
One thing about me and Pat is, we always talk about our roots are Struthers. They really are. Even though I still teach there and I love it. I really love the community of Struthers. Even though I'm not the head coach there anymore, I still talk to those guys. And I still talk to Coach Wernicke all the time. It's a great place. It really is. And it kind of shaped me and Pat into who we are, even though he left. But as young kids, it was really a great place to grow up in. And I'm proud to say I'm from Struthers and I teach there. And our administration is unbelievable at Struthers. Same with McDonald. So I've seen those comments, and Struthers people are always so supportive, even now with me being at McDonald and that.
Absolutely.
All I have to say is the best height, in my opinion, old school facility is Struthers Fieldhouse.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that one.
Hey, best place to play a game, worst place to practice, because you can't pull those stands back.
It's one way to do it. Well, okay. So let me ask you this. So let's start and actually that's my first question. Best place to play a high school basketball game, anywhere in the state, wherever you've played.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
For me, you already answered it, Tony. There is no better place than the Struthers Fieldhouse.
Okay.
Maybe comparable would be the Canton Memorial Fieldhouse, but other than that, it's Struthers.
Yeah, Struthers Fieldhouse is special. I mean, as a player and coach, definitely good memories there. As a young kid, running around this always was some very formative memories for me that were cool. So Canton Fieldhouse is awesome. Those two definitely come to mind. Top of it. There's just so much tradition in those places that, and I'll be honest, I love our gym. When this place is crowded on a Friday night, like we had a couple games last year, we filled this place and there was a lot of energy in here. It felt like a district championship game. Jimmy's been a part of it, Division II district championship games here. We were able to recreate that a few times, and the energy in this place gets going pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Hardest place to play?
Hardest place to play? You get to like Mooney, and Mooney's hard. Everything echoes in there. They have that beam running across the floor. It's loud. We played a game there last year, and both student sections showed up in waves, and you couldn't hear a thing. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, and it just turned into guys playing because coaches were kind of useless. They couldn't hear a word we were saying at that point.
Now you understand where I'm coming from when I say I can't hear you.
Yeah, sometimes I guess you're not lying.
Jimmy?
That's a tough question for me. I mean, I know what's going to be tough for us now. A tough place for us to play right now will be Lowellville. I don't know, just something about there. Even when I was at Struthers, they have a great fan base and they get after you pretty good. And my family's from Lowellville, so that doesn't help. I take a little bit of heat down there.
Yeah, I mean, it's the reason why I do these questions is because some people may not know this. It's just hey, these coaches are only human, and I don't think people understand that.
If we're throwing I throw Canfield on that list too. Something about it's a little smaller of the floor. I swear the rims there are a little extra tight. It took us years. 2 years ago was the first time we had won at Canfield in a long time. I felt like that was a monkey on my back, and that was a huge moment for me personally in this program, was just to go to – we had beaten them at home, but we've gone back and forth, and it was like 5-6 years or something. It was like, what is it about this place? One year we're up like 20-0 in the first quarter, literally, and now losing the game. I don't know how. Just one of those, like, just couldn't win there. It just felt like one of those places. So we've got the last 2 years and trying to keep that streak going, hopefully.
Okay. Now the rest of these questions are personal. You can use a professional or a personal experience. Best accomplishment in your career, personal or professional? Jimmy?
Geez.
Or do you want me to pass the pass?
No, sports basketball wise was us playing in the district championship, obviously. A few years back, my last year at Struthers, we were the 6th seed going into the tournament, and we made a nice little run there, and we were young. We were really young. We played 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores, and we got hot at the right time. And like we were talking about earlier with Pat, that's our goal at the end of the season, is to get to that point. One of my other goals professionally, or whatever you want to say, is that's been a huge in my life is my family, honestly. Having my wife and my kids and my parents so involved in my life and in basketball. You can't, and Pat knows this, you can't do it without them. You really can't. If you don't have their support, you might as well pack it in and not coach, because it becomes impossible at that point.
Pat, best accomplishment?
Yeah, like I said, as a coach, the last 2 years have just been phenomenal. I always told these seniors last year after we left Canton, and we're sad. He said, as a young coach, I just always knew there was going to be a class to come through that bought in, that believed in what I was selling. And when I got this job, I was 27, and I had a lot to learn, like any young coach does. And I just stayed the course and knew, okay, hey, I'm gonna chip away at this. I'm gonna get it right one day. I'm going to get the right kids. And really it started about 4 years ago with that senior class. And then a couple growing pains in this last senior class that just graduated. They were freshmen. And, So just really, it's the wins for sure with that group, but it's the connections, it's the bonds. Like I love those guys, and all the guys that come through, all the seniors that have stayed the course and gone through 4 years with me. I feel like I have such a special connection with, and Jimmy attests to what he had with Coach Feuerlein and what I had with Coach Brink. Like that's why we do this. It's for 10 years from now, those guys come back and they're your guys. I got a couple guys come back and coaching with me now. It's pretty cool. Those are my guys, that coaching tree. And, if I'm in this for a long time, that'll be neat. If not, I'll have those memories forever. Teaching wise, it's just trying to be a good representative of Boardman. I jumped in with 2 feet into Boardman. I always felt like this is where I was supposed to be. I don't know why. I just remember driving down Glenwood when I was in college and just seeing the high school and be like, I know I'm going to teach or something. I didn't know why, and it happened. And I've just kind of bought into this community. I live here and it's special for me. And, Jimmy mentioned family, like not only my wife, I mean, she's awesome. She's a coach, she's a head coach. And, we help each other out so much because we both know what we're going through, and said her season's coming to an end, mine's beginning. And we just understand each other and what we need. And our family is just unbelievable. I got a small posse behind our bench every game that win or lose, I know those people have my back, and I know no matter what happens, I have my family right there with me, and it's just such a special feeling. It's hard to put into words, and Jimmy knows that his family's unbelievable. We have such great support systems as head coaches that we're fortunate. We really are.
Best memory, professional or personal? Oh, I'm getting down. I got plenty of questions.
I gotta take this one because Jimmy's gonna hate this answer. Jimmy knows exactly where I'm going as a player. I'll go with the player first. I have to with Jimmy on the line here. So I moved to Springfield, 6th grade, and I was fortunate. We had really good talent in front of me, behind me. We had a really good run in high school. My junior year, we went undefeated, played Struthers in a really good game at Springfield. The Struthers team was very talented. I was like, who was on that team, Jimmy? That was oh shoot.
That's Mike Culinary.
Yeah, those guys were good. Really good game. Yeah. Senior year, I get a chance to go back to Struthers and play for the Fieldhouse. First time ever. I had grown up there, said a manager, ball boy, 4th and 5th grade. And I look across and it's Jimmy. It's one of my lifelong best friends. And it's all these guys I grew up with. And it just happened. I had a really good game that night. I had a career high. And, it just felt like one of those moments. It's like, wow, this is really cool. And at the end of the game, one of my best friends is sitting there. I remember hugging him at center court, just thinking like, this is really, really cool. So that's an accomplishment. And it said just, what was it? Memory, you said? Go back to family and kids and getting married. Those things are just top of the list. They always will be,
Jimmy, your best memory?
And piggybacking off Pat a little bit there, because that really was a great moment for both of us, getting a chance to play against each other. And then another one was of me, especially with Pat here, is when I was at Struthers and he was at Boardman, I got to coach against them at their place. And then he came down to our place. And, when you have a relationship with somebody that like Pat is such a good guy. And, there was a time where I thought I was going to coach with Pat. But at that time is when I got the job at Struthers as a head coach. So it didn't work out. And we've always said it's going to happen one day. It's just a matter of when.
Whichever one of us
memory wise,
head coaching first.
Another memory of mine is obviously my having, as a family man and having kids, it's changed my outlook on life, and my kids are everything to me. They really are. I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they're just great. And my wife takes care of them. I mean, she really does. So that's it. And basically, hopefully going to create some more memories here real soon. Tony, starting next Saturday at Boardman.
I will expect that to start happening. Who's your role model? Jimmy or Pat?
Let me go, Pat or you?
I'll go real quick. Coaching wise, I mentioned Coach Brink. 90% of what I know about basketball and the passion for it is from him. And then it's cliche, but it's my dad. In terms of his passion for sports and his dedication to things. My parents in general, my mom has multiple sclerosis. She has MS. She's had it for probably close to 30 years at this point, 25 years. And she's such a just strong-willed person, and she doesn't let it stop her. And currently, Tony, this, Jimmy knows, my sister, Kristen, what she's gone through is, everyone says it's inspirational, and it really is. And I hate to be cliche, but it's just someone that you see what she's gone through. And, every day that I start to feel bad about whatever, I'm tired. I just think, stop, just stop. It has nothing compared to what Kristen's gone through. So it's my family, in general.
Jimmy?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Pat there too. And it's, in my life, my parents were huge role models. Such hard workers, and you had no choice but to be a hard worker with them. It was just how they were. Every day was a grind for them, and their main responsibility was to take care of me. And believe me, I made many mistakes growing up, and it's taken me 30 some years, but I think I'm on the right path, and I'm pretty sure they're pretty proud. And we had a chance this summer, me and Pat, to get together with our families, and it was great just to reconnect. And Pat's parents are great and unbelievable. As far as basketball wise, it's Coach Fioline, hands down. What he's meant to my life as a player and a coach and a mentor is, I can't. People don't understand it. We've gone from he being my coach to being coaches together, and just becoming friends. And he'll always be Coach Fioline to me. He gets mad. I joke around at school sometimes and call him Joe, just to get him mad. But he's always Coach Fioline to me. And so, and recently as a mentor, I mean, Jeff has meant a lot to me. He really has, not just basketball wise. When I was going through that rough patch, he was there for me. And we had some long talks, and we'd get together, go to his house. And he was just such a positive role model for me. And I wouldn't be at McDonald if it wasn't for him.
Okay. Now, this question, I want you to think long and hard, because I like to get. So we'll go to Pat first. If there was one person you'd want to meet, past or present, who would it be? Pat?
Yeah, honestly, it's my mom's dad. I've said this. My mom has always talked to me about him. He died when I was 11 months old, so I never really got to know him. And just hearing about him and hearing the stories from my mom, I just always felt like I've had a connection with him, even though, obviously, that wasn't really a part of my life that I remember. So that's it. From a historical perspective, I'm a history teacher. Any of the great presidents that we've had or leaders of this country, I feel like would be neat to sit down and talk to. Teddy Roosevelt is the guy that I just think would be a trip. Sit down and have a drink with Teddy would be something special. But in terms of just people that more realistic, so to speak, it'd be my mom's dad, my grandpa.
Jimmy?
Kind of in the same boat as Pat, which is pretty. I mean, our lives are so much alike; they really are. But my dad's dad had passed away when my dad was 2, so he really didn't even get to meet him, and as he would have liked to have, obviously. But with the last name Franceschelli and the tradition that my family has and carried on, would have just liked to go back and for my dad to be able to meet him, and then carry on to me to be able to meet him. In the sports world, I can name a lot. But one of my guys, I'm a huge North Carolina guy, huge. So Dean Smith, I would just love to, back in the day, sat down and just talk X's and O's with him for a long time.
Okay. And this will kind of be the last question to wrap up. So as coaches that have been in the business a long time, what advice can you give anyone that would like to be a coach or that's looking to be a coach? What advice can you give them? Anyone, Jimmy or Pat?
Yeah, go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go first. One of the things I tell guys, and I have some young coaches that coach for me right now, is you have to be fully committed. You really do. If this is something that you love and you're passionate about, then jump in with 2 feet, like Pat said. Be all about it. I don't think people really understand what goes into being a head coach all the time, though. If it was just about Tuesday and Fridays in practice, a lot of people could do it. But like right now, going through fundraising and getting the guys their travel gear and doing this and doing that, pictures this week. And I mean, it's just it's a grind every day. I get up at 6 a.m. and I'm not usually home till 8 at night, 9 at night. So you got to be committed and want to do this. If you're in it for the money, this ain't what you're in it for. I mean, this isn't you.
Nope.
I know it's not because of the money.
I mean,
yeah, just saying, like Jimmy said, first of all, you got to love it. You got to love it. And I think the guys that I know in the kind of the coaching circle around Mahoning Valley, we got a lot of really good ones that love it and are in it for the right reasons. And I feel a lot of connections with those guys. There's a brotherhood within this because everyone knows, win or lose, what everyone's going through, and when someone is losing, really what they're going through. And when someone's winning, you feel happy for them because the hours that goes into this. And we might only be high school basketball coaches, but I guarantee you all of us are putting in the hours that, any level is just about on top of teaching or whatever our day job is, Other than that, you're loving it. You got to find someone that's a mentor to you that you could lean on, that we both alluded to. And, I still pick up the phone and call Coach Brink every once in a while, but hey, I got this situation. What would you do? You know what I mean? Like, give me your 2 cents and we'll talk it out. And it doesn't mean I agree with them or we come to the same answer, but, you have to have someone that you could call. I talked to Jimmy, as a buddy and a friend and a confidant and say, what do you think? You know what I mean? Like you got to have people that you could call, and then last thing is don't be afraid to ask questions and go learn from other people. You never know as much as you think you do. Like you're never as good as you think you are. You're always trying to figure out what the next thing is. And you just got to ask, you got to watch videos, you got to go to clinics, you got to talk to people. That's it. You're always growing. If you're not, then it's just not, going to be long-term.
Well, just to follow up both of that is I had talked to a coach years ago. I probably was my first 5 years in. It's probably been about 10 or 12 years. And I actually forget the coach that actually said this. He goes, he'll retire when it's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
Is that a pretty much summation?
Yeah, I think so. I think, when you dread going to practice and you dread doing, then it's just not, it's time to move on. If you're not having fun with it, some of the stuff's never going to be fun. Like it's not like the fundraising and there's just some aspects of being a head coach. They are what they are, and you got to do them the best of your ability and manage them as a really good organized person. But if you're not excited to be in there with your kids and your guys and that whistle blows at practice, if you don't get that feeling, then it's probably time to hang it up.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, it's a pleasure. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules. I know a lot's going on right now. You're always welcome back on my show, and I hope to have you guys in the future. And I hope to during the basketball season.
Absolutely. I'm only doing it if Jimmy's on here with me, though.
I'll have to consider
we're
that.
a tag team.
Yeah.
I'll take it under.
We're like step.
Just like we used to play 2-on-2 in the front yard. It just is what it is.
And who would always win?
I don't know. We had so many battles on different. Me and Jimmy probably competed as little kids more than any people I know. Like we would fight each other over basketball, and then we'd go play football and fight each other, and then we'd go play a video game and fight each other. And eventually, our parents would say, "Okay, you have to separate for a couple of days because you guys have been around each other too much." And then we threw Mike, who's really, Jimmy's really good buddy and a good friend growing up. We were just kids, man. We were 10, 11, 12 years old and just having fun. It was good times.
Yeah, it sounds like it was.
Yeah, it
Everyone,
really was. Tony, thank you.
I'm sorry?
Thank you for having me. I was telling you, thank you for having us. I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
Hey, appreciate having you. We'll always see you during the basketball season. Everyone, thank you for joining us tonight.
Check out. Good.
Go ahead, Pat.
I want to make sure I officially thank you for having my sister on about a month ago and helping to get her story out there. My family greatly appreciates that and what so many people have done. Jimmy mentioned Struthers. They've been there for her like none other, and this whole community, this whole area has. So it's a thank you not only to you, Tony, but to thousands of people out there that have stepped up, and coaches that I mentioned that have stepped up, and it's heartfelt. It really is.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I know I wanted to get her story out because she has been, from who I've talked to, has really had an inspirational message, and it's important to get that out.
Absolutely.
So appreciate you guys. Thank you everyone for coming out. You can check more interviews and podcasts at anthonyvspano.com. Be safe and God bless everyone. Have a great night.